Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we take a look at the astrological energies from January 29th until February 5th, where we have a lot going on over this next period of time. We'll have the Aquarius New Moon, Uranus station direct, a beautiful enchanting Pisces Stellium that begins February. Venus enters Aries and Jupiter stations direct. A lot of movement happening over this next week as we move into February, and we're also entering into some of the biggest energy periods of 2025. February, March, and April hold a lot of pivotal astrology, including eclipse season that will kick off in March. Neptune will move into Aries in late March, and we'll continue to have a heavy focus on planets in the late degrees of Pisces, early degrees of Aries. This is the changeover of energies on the planet. This is also a renewal period for us individually. And of course, that looks different for each of us, but this is a time of very big change. So if you're feeling it, if you're sensing it, you're right on time. Of course, you are directly connected to the cosmos. You are connected to the energies in your astrology chart. You are your astrology chart as a living, breathing vessel of energy. And it's always my intention to support you in your own journey through this podcast. And really quickly, for those who are new to the program, I have been doing this podcast since 2012. It's offered twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays. Plus, I have new content for you on YouTube a few times a week. There's a lot of teaching videos on YouTube as well. And I've been studying and practicing astrology for over 30 years. It started out as an underground secretive hobby. It developed into a passion. I started giving my friends unrequested astrology readings as a late teenager into my 20s, and astrology has always traveled with me personally in order to help me understand what the heck is going on, especially during the hard periods and the tough times. So, of course, I've read all the cookbooks on astrology, all the ones that give you the formulas and understandings, but it's really through the years of living the energy, through the decades of experience, that it has truly come to light and, of course, been more personal. So the astrology I offer you is more intuitive, energetic, and spiritual. I pull in messages from my guides. I work with a galactic team, connecting with them all the time, and using astrology as a beautiful language and energy system of consciousness. Astrology is not a belief system. You don't need to believe in astrology for it to be valid. You might not be interested, and that's totally fine. But you don't believe in gravity, right? It just is. So astrology is an energy system where we as humans are raising our consciousness to understand the vastness of energies in the cosmos and how we are innately connected to these cycles, themes, and frequencies. And so all are welcome here. If you're interested in this type of astrology, it is Western tropical astrology. And I hope that this information connects dots for you and helps you feel more empowered in yourself, your choices, and your path. Now we are in Aquarius season. Aquarius season is the 11th sign of the zodiac wheel. It is fixed air, and it is also associated with quantum cosmic energies. After the experience of Capricorn, which is the final earth sign in the zodiac wheel, we move into the realms of Aquarius, which literally take us off planet, where we are encouraged and need to do things differently, to not only think outside the box, but dissolve the box and create a more expansive understanding of what is possible and how to use our energy in new ways. Aquarius season is a time to evolve ourselves beyond what we've known, to challenge ourselves, to take a risk, do something different, do something weird, even if it's wildly uncomfortable. Aquarius is where we push the edges, we move past the edges, and we understand that that's exactly where we will see and discover something we've never understood before. Aquarius season helps us in expanding our consciousness, becoming more creative, more alive, filled with wonder and hope. Aquarius is the energy of the collective in astrology, where we combine multiple diverse experiences into the whole, where the micro is important to the macro, And we start to understand a bigger system of energy, a bigger system of pieces, and how those pieces all work together. So this is a time to test your edge, test your own edges, test where you're afraid to fly, which is an Aquarius theme. Aquarius is associated with aviation, space travels, off-planetary energies. Test your own edges, as this is where you could be dazzled and surprised by what shows up to support you in whatever form of quantum leap you're ready to take. Aquarius in your astrology chart is where you're here to be different. It's where you are often misunderstood or wonder where you belong. Belonging is a big Aquarius keyword, but it's an interesting concept because after the Aquarius energy understands at a core level that you innately belong, you belong here within the human population, you belong as a soul on your own journey, then you start to feel powerful and safe to stretch and grow into your individuality. And so the Aquarius journey can be one of, first, I feel like an outsider. Where do I go to fit in? Who are my people? Where is my community? Where is my tribe? And then there can be a next experience of understanding I'm strong on my own. I'm good. I see my sovereign energy. I know I'm independent and I feel strong enough to follow my own path and follow my own light. All of these energies are exceptionally strong this week as we experience the Aquarius New Moon on January 29th at 9 degrees, 51 minutes of Aquarius. It's exact at 7:36 a.m. Eastern Time. So for those in the US, you start the morning with this Aquarius New Moon energy, and it's also the beginning of the Lunar New Year. For the first time in 60 years, it is the energy of the wood snake. That is the earth snake associated with the color green, and in astrology, commonly associated with the themes and principles of Taurus. So a new beginning point is here. And if we combine the energy of the Lunar New Year wood snake with this Aquarius New Moon, we are combining the energy of your rising self-worth and self-value that accepts who you are, your creative gifts, your needs, your creation abilities, your value systems that shape and hone what you're drawn to, what you want in your world. And we allow this to be good enough that you understand you are innately connected to abundance through all streams, and that as that frequency surrounds you, floods you, and integrates within you in a more powerful way, you rise up and see new potentials in your life in Aquarius. You see a new vista, a new horizon of what you can create in your world, of what matters to you, especially when it's strongly aligned with your values and what you want. This can be a very powerful, magnetizing energy. And I'm seeing that as this fast moving frequency that can pull in more of what supports you and what you need, which might even be surprising you. And that's because also at this time, during this Aquarius New Moon, we have Uranus stationing direct at 23 degrees of Taurus. The exact station happens on January 30th at 11:22 a.m. Eastern Time. And this is where Uranus comes to a full stop from our perspective here on Earth. Now, of course, the planets really are not changing direction. It is a perception that we have, and it helps us work with the energies and integrate with them because it gives our human energies time to review, reflect, reconsider during the retrograde, to become more conscious and more aware. And then as the planet stations direct, we're able to make shifts and changes as needed. Now, Uranus is all about evolutionary changes, and often it's so unexpected that it can be shocking and it can be big developments that appear out of the blue. Uranus rises our consciousness beyond what we would traditionally expect or know. And it's where things can happen in a way that liberate you from a past constraint or an area of your life you didn't know you were ready to evolve from. I think of Uranus as a hustler in astrology because things happen quickly and the suddenness can require us to hustle and adapt to the changes, the developments, the out of the blue, OMG, what just happened, that Uranus energies bring up. So with Uranus at 23 degrees of Taurus, this energy is working directly with any planets or points around 23 degrees of the Earth signs, which would be Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. It's also working with 23 degrees of the fixed signs. The fixed signs are Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. So if you have planets or points around 23 degrees, you're really feeling these changes. Now, Uranus first reached this degree point in May 2024, which is when the developments and life events would have started to happen. Now you are actually winding them down, winding them up, because Uranus is going to move forward and will not return to this degree point again. Now, keep in mind that when we're discussing the outer planets, we measure them with exact degree points because of how slowly they move. So yes, we consider the orb. In this case, you could be feeling the shaking and movement if you have planets or points around 21 or 22 degrees, but really it's working strongly at 23 degrees, and then we'll move forward through the remaining degrees of Taurus, and Uranus will enter Gemini July 7th of this year. So basically, if you have planets or points in the third decan of Taurus, especially the late degrees, you're still on a roller coaster here. You're still going to be dealing with the extremes that Uranus can bring up. It can be wildly exciting and fun. Amazing opportunities come in. Quick solutions arrive. It's a fast-paced energy, but not everyone's built for that. Not everyone can pivot quickly or adapt on the go. So it does depend on your chart, of course, because some people will thrive on this and others will feel like it's a real struggle and it's very overwhelming. So Uranus stations direct again January 30th, 23 degrees, 15 minutes Taurus, will move forward and will move into Gemini, but Uranus will return to Taurus later this year and cover 27, 28, and 29 degrees of Taurus again. So Uranus is not done in Taurus. And I do want to highlight that as Uranus gets to 27 degrees of Taurus, Uranus will then square the USA's natal moon in Aquarius at 27 degrees. So transiting Uranus in Taurus squares the USA's natal moon in Aquarius at 27 degrees. I did a separate podcast episode for you discussing this very topic, but I want to give you a heads up because this could certainly trigger financial developments, a financial crash or crisis that hits the people, okay? Because the moon in a country's chart represents the people. So I do need to give you that heads up and to do what you need to do if that happens, if that occurs, but to know that with this Uranus and Taurus shaking up financial and economic issues, and with Uranus going to complete its time in Taurus in 2026, we are on the cusp of whatever those pivotal changes may be. And of course, this is one of the best ways that we can reference astrology is to get a heads up. Now, at the same time that Uranus stations direct, the Sun in Aquarius trines a very slow-moving Jupiter retrograde in Gemini at 11 degrees. The Sun in Aquarius trining Jupiter in Gemini is good news, beneficial communications, happy developments, maybe something you were waiting on. You receive the feedback, the email, the travel plans. Jupiter brings about good developments and beneficial news, so do keep in mind that this is strongest around the Aquarius New Moon as well, even though it's exact January 30th. So a very energizing ending here to January. A lot of dynamic shifts going on as we close out January and move into February, which has very strong Pisces energies. Now, I did a podcast for you on Monday describing the overviews of February and the bigger themes, the broader strokes of the month. And it's worth noting how the month begins on a very magical note, as we're going to have the moon, Venus, and Neptune, all three planets conjunct the north node at 28 degrees of Pisces. So this is beautifully creative and loving. There's a kindness in the air. There's a sense of compassion and forgiveness. And with all these energies lining up at 28 degrees, nearly the very end of the full 360-degree astrological wheel, this signifies closures, endings, unraveling. What are you completing at a soul level that you're meant to find peace with, that you're meant to end with gratitude, acceptance, surrender, where you take forward the best of what you've learned and leave the rest? And here we have some openings and realizations around what you've been moving through, what you've been feeling, and really feel into what those messages are for you, because this is heightened intuition. And when we take the strong Pisces energy and we couple it with the strong Aquarius energy, there is a deeper knowingness here. There is a sense of, wow, this is what it was about. This is what I was mastering or learning. This was what was coming through. Perhaps it was your karma, an unfinished soul lesson. Perhaps it was something that you agreed to move through in this lifetime, to close it out and be complete. And you're going to feel it and know it with the strong Pisces and air energies happening simultaneously. So even though we'll talk about specific aspects and energies, they're all working together. They're all in the cosmic soup. And so these are saying you're moving on to a new development, a new chapter, but you're also meant to be in a place of clear understanding, which would include not only your energy, but your responsibility, your growth, your shadow, your inner child, all components of you. And that's another thing that comes up during Aquarius season, because Aquarius energy highlights all the different components that create our authentic energy. So it pulls in all these core memories, all these experiences, all these soul adventures. And then what happened yesterday or what happened 2 months ago? It brings all of that into the wholeness of you. And as we merge with these strong Pisces energies, there's an understanding of what you are transitioning away from, where that flow of Pisces energy is guiding you into new experiences that you're ready for. But it also feels more personal when we have the moon and Venus here conjunct Neptune and the North Node. Now, the North Node signals that it's time, that this is a destined closure, that it's a fated ending, that it's right on time in how the divine cycles work for you to transition away, to move on, to close out what is no longer truly resonating with you. Now, keep in mind, even though we can be aware of this, it's also where new karma can begin, where we can unknowingly continue a pattern, a habit, a routine, if there isn't growth, if there isn't full acknowledgement of what it's been about for you, what you've been learning, what you've been transcending. This is a point of ascension, and in order to move on, you've had to let go of a version of yourself, of whatever energy you had in your own energetic container that attached to that experience, to that event, to that bumper sticker, because your power is, of course, within your own energy, and shifting that at a base level so that the frequency no longer connects. The bumper sticker just magically falls off and blows away in the wind. The energy within you has shifted to the point where you can see your own growth, your own advancements, and how you're different. Now, for each of us, this is happening in the late degrees of Pisces in your chart. So 28 degrees of Pisces is a very big area of energy here that actually lasts into 2026. It extends for a year because of the upcoming retrogrades that we're going to have with this Neptune in Pisces, as well as Saturn in Pisces. So whatever is coming up to your awareness now, as we enter February, there is going to be new layers and new growth available to you as you love yourself through the healing, the lessons, the journey, as you see what your soul was learning from the vantage point of your higher self. This also asks you to reconceptualize the energy, to see it as powerful development, to see it through the eyes of the soul, where the soul doesn't evaluate what's good or bad. The soul sees it all as an experience for growth and potential. And so as you get to the heart of what you've had to experience and endure, you're going to also feel into the value of it, the strength, the fortitude, whatever it was that you went through that showed you more of who you really are, and to love yourself more for it, to love yourself more from that empowered place. And as I see this energy, I'm also seeing it offering compassion to everyone involved, to all levels of energy. I'm seeing this energy as blasting out completion, love, compassion, detachment, and closure. And it's truly coming from these more empowered divine feminine energies, because the moon and Venus are there. The moon and Venus are right there, really feeling the strength of Neptune and the North Node in Pisces. And this is where it's personal. This is where there is a part of your heart, a part of your being within your divine feminine experiences that are elevating and allowing you to move on, but with a new level of love. Level of love for yourself, level of love for others, even for the planet as a whole. Because part of the cycle we're in that's so important right now is the divine feminine energy rising up on the planet and being understood, being accepted, being seen as valuable and needed, especially within the ongoing dance of divine union and sacred energies on the planet. Whereas the divine feminine energy rises with these aspects, it's rising within all of us, regardless of gender or sex. It's rising up as an energy frequency here that we're meant to tap into and to hold in our energetic vessels. And so it does feel like a softening into self, a softening into acceptance, forgiveness, release, and letting go that can be felt across the spectrum of Pisces energies, which is it can be felt as deep grief and it can be felt as deep love. It can be anywhere in the middle there. And in fact, you could move between it. You can move between that spectrum in a day and an hour. You could feel yourself dancing between all these layers of energies, which is normal for the human experience. So we're entering into some very big Pisces territory here. And in fact, the stronger energy is Neptune, as Neptune is the final dispositor and Neptune is running the show of the grand clearing. And because it is at the late degrees of Pisces, these are more significant endings, and we'll see it through changes on the planet, especially through weather, extreme weather, big water movement, historic weather developments, which are not always organic, by the way. Of course, we know there's a lot of artificial weather experiments happening on the planet that are magnifying these energies even more. There could even be a compassion portal that opens up in February. A compassion portal is what allows us to rise above our differences and our humanness, to see everyone as a fellow soul on a journey on this planet at the same time, to go into our heart space and have compassion for others regardless of other things that previously divided us or created fear. So there's big emotional energy here, and there's also going to be those elevating in their intuition, their spiritual gifts, clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance. We're going to be feeling deeper in our hearts, and there is that softening here. So keep in mind that divine feminine energies are going to be powerful and needed. There's going to be more need for compassion and acceptance, as well as for loving people exactly where they are. And we can say that, but then not really practice it or not really mean it. There can also be this internal struggle between your human perspective and your spiritual perspective. That's also part of the strong Pisces influence, where your human self is going to have one opinion, one viewpoint, one feeling about it. But then if you elevate up into the spiritual perspective, you can see that everyone is on their own soul journey. They are here in human form, activating their free will, using their sovereign powers, making choices. Some people will resist growth. They'll resist developing or advancing. There are people who will stay in one energy field the rest of their life. And that's just what they want, or that's their comfort zone. That could be fear-based. That could be many things. And so at a higher level, at that spiritual level, you're able to say, okay, I love what they're choosing for themselves, knowing that it's serving them. It's serving whatever is important to them at this time, knowing that their soul is with them and simply accepting what is. And that is one of these big energies here of Pisces. It's accepting what is. It's accepting what has been. It's accepting what you've been through and allowing yourself to move on, so that your ability to move on is the gift you give yourself. It's the peace you give yourself. What peace do you need to give yourself as February begins? And this can be a messy piece, okay? This doesn't have to be perfect, but this is again where our humanness will wrestle with our spiritual self. And it's important to flood the energy with your higher spiritual self, because that's what this energy is. And that's where you're going to then feel the wave of transition carry you forward. This is also an energy of bright creativity, magical insights, amazing inspiration can happen with this Venus working with Neptune and the North Node in Pisces. You might start getting wild downloads. Make sure you ground it. Make sure you write it down and put it somewhere so you don't lose it. I mean, I'm seeing it as the form of big artworks and symphonies and orchestras, wild colors and giant angel wings. I mean, I'm seeing it as a very expansive energy that is free and open. Like that creative urge overtakes you and you have to redo the living room, or something in your world is coming through that needs to shift and change because of what you're feeling with these strong Pisces influences. Now keep in mind, this energy does move us through February. So it starts strong February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, as Venus is conjunct Neptune and the North Node at 28 degrees. Neptune continues this conjunction to the North Node for 10 days into the month. Then they're only a degree apart. Then Neptune will be still at 28 degrees and the North Node is at 27 degrees. So the influence continues, but you could feel a significant shift as February begins. On February 2nd, we have Imbolc, also called St. Bridget's Day. It is the midpoint between the Capricorn solstice and the Aries equinox, which here in the Northern Hemisphere can also represent an ending of summer and the incoming whispers of spring. If you would like to learn more about these traditions, I recommend checking out Mary Kennedy, who teaches the Celtic Wheel. You can find her on Instagram and Facebook, Mari Kennedy, and she teaches the Celtic Wheel, which is about Celtic traditions, festivals, energy shifts, and changes throughout the calendar year. She has beautiful teachings and postings that she offers regularly, and I hope this helps you sync up with these changing of energies. Now, as February gets underway, we also have some other big shifts, as we're going to see Venus enter Aries February 3rd. So right after that conjunction to the North Node and Neptune, Venus moves into Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, which is about initiating change, a new adventure, a new beginning. But we've got to go slow here, because Venus in Aries is going to be moving very slowly through February, as she will station retrograde March 1st at 10 degrees 51 minutes of Aries. That means that this is a time to be very intentional around what you want to start, because it is going to change. It is going to shift during the upcoming Venus retrograde. So whatever is arriving here that you're feeling energized or motivated to move towards and to begin, know that it will have a second or possibly third version unfolding into April. Venus will retrograde back into Pisces, and she will make 2 more conjunctions to the North Node and Neptune. She is going through a deep rebirth and cleanse. This Venus is on a powerful heroine's journey at this time, that yes, it begins in February, but because it lasts for a few months, it would be wise to expect shifts and changes here where Venus is moving in your chart, where that new beginning could be a false start, or it's going to look different by May, It could be that you are reorganizing or reevaluating something that is important to you, which is Venus. Venus is about our investments, our possessions, our creativity, what we magnetize in and own, our style, our confidence, how we feel about ourselves, and then how we present it in a manner that represents our self-love and our self-worth. So even though Venus enters Aries on February 3rd, she is going to have a big makeover, a rebrand, a personal style revolution. So this is a part of your chart to stay fluid, open, and flexible. And she's going to be receiving the messages from Neptune and the North Node 2 more times. I will be doing a separate podcast episode for you on this Venus energy, especially because it relates to a Venus star point. And that will be a featured Monday podcast in February. Now, a few more things to share with you around February 3rd. As Mercury in Aquarius will trine Jupiter in Gemini at 11 degrees, this is the big ideas going somewhere. When Mercury in Aquarius, the fixed sign of Aquarius, receives a boost of information, details, and direction from Jupiter in Gemini, there's an understanding of what to do with it. So a lot of fast-moving developments, communications. Again, there can be good news here with that Mercury trining Jupiter. And interestingly, Jupiter is also in the process of stationing direct during this trine. So a turning point is at hand. Correct news comes out. There's a plot twist or course correction here where the information that was previously discussed is verified and says, actually, that's not the truth. This is the full story. If Jupiter was holding back important details, that comes forward here as Jupiter stations direct and trines this Mercury in Aquarius. Mercury rules Jupiter in Gemini. So there's a connection point here of this is what's important to know. This is what's essential. Even if one version was told or one version was discussed, this is more of what's really going on that wasn't fully lined up just yet. So it's a great day for getting clarity, truth, the bigger story, more information, and hearing both sides. Keep in mind that if there is a one-sided story, then information is missing. And Jupiter in Gemini, Gemini being the twins, being both sides of the coin, that's what creates the full story. That's what gives you more complete information. And so that could be part of the turnaround of unexpected news or developments is that, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow, I didn't think of it in that way before. I didn't have that information. This could also be a time to speak up or declare something, to bring it to the forefront, express what's been on your mind, share it in some capacity, as that Mercury in Aquarius, being the messenger, will take it out into the world, which is Aquarius. So Mercury is going to take some news out to the public, the audience, the groups that can be quite positive, uplifting, and fill in any gaps in the story. Now, while this energy is unfolding, we also have a Mars retrograde in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries at 19 degrees. This can be the bumps and bruises to the ego. This is where that Mars retrograde in Cancer, out of bounds, swimming through his emotions and feeling ungrounded, comes up against what this Chiron in Aries has been bringing to your attention since last April. Yes, April 2024, which is when we had the Aries solar eclipse at 19 degrees, highlighting what needs to be healed, showing you a new part of the journey, a new part of your sense of self that needs to be tended to and taken care of. Well, the square from Mars in Cancer retrograde, who's also out of bounds, wild, erratic, not listening to anybody, I'll do what I want, I'll swim where I want, hits a sore spot, and that Chiron energy really feels it. This could be a time when the energies are more sensitive, reactionary, heightened. But keep in mind, it's been an ongoing issue. This isn't new. It's just that here is Mars, who probably is getting worn out because he's spending this 3.5 months in Cancer, which is not an astrology sign he's comfortable in at all. And now something is hurting. And both Chiron and Mars are associated with the physical body. Chiron is healing whatever the physical injury or wound may be, while Mars is bringing up the reactions or defensiveness or emotions that have been under the surface. So there is heightened emotional reactivity here. Also, be careful of any physical injuries, moving too fast or acting with haste, because this would imply something occurs that slows you down if you're not careful and grounded. So there's a lot going on over this next week. The energy can feel big and expansive. Jupiter stations direct at 11 degrees of Gemini. This occurs on February 4th at 4:40 a.m. Eastern Time. So for some people, it will be February 3rd. But when Jupiter is stationing direct in Gemini, there's a big message, big information. It could be exaggerated and amplified, but there is a loudness going on here. And it could feel too like there's a lot circling, moving about, and even overstimulating us. Jupiter, being the biggest planet in our solar system, not only wants us to grow and be wiser. Jupiter is where we learn from what we've been through and we see it in a positive way. But Jupiter is not strong in Gemini, where Gemini is the mind, the details, the specifics, the data, logic, and rationale. Gemini is the storyteller. And here Jupiter wants you to infuse a new angle or more optimistic approach to whatever the story is or the information might be. As Jupiter stations direct, a reverberation is felt in the Gemini energies and in the Gemini areas of your chart. And this can help you with that aha moment. Again, big information, big solutions. You see something now. This is what it's about. This is the truer story. This is what I want to grow and develop and take forward. So 11 degrees of Gemini in your chart is where this Jupiter is stationing direct and will now move forward for its remaining journey through Gemini and then enter Cancer in June, specifically June 9th. So here comes Jupiter again next to 19 degrees of Gemini through the rest of Gemini to highlight the appropriate forms of communication and personal expression that maybe you've been stalled with, holding back, or haven't had clarity around. This will also emphasize the throat chakra. Anything you are wanting to learn, to study, understand, think about in a new way or from a higher perspective, this Jupiter in Gemini can certainly help with all of that. So there's a lot going on here in the end of January into February. The Aquarius and Pisces areas of your chart are very active. And I feel that there's going to be a clear energy shift on February 1st, February 2nd, February 3rd. I think we're going to feel it personally, but also in the collective. We're moving into big unity consciousness energies, which will ask us to access our higher self frequencies more often and more regularly, to remember that we are living in a grand cycle of changes that will have big endings, and those endings will lead us to beautiful new starting points. I do keep feeling this ribbon of sorrow, a sadness that will be moving through the collective during these really strong Pisces energies. I don't know if that's associated with a particular event or development, but I am also feeling the importance of blessing the water to raise the frequency of the molecules, to calm and diminish any strong energies within the water, and to visualize softer, more natural flows of water and movement on the planet. The elements will be quite powerful throughout 2025. And again, more extremes, more drastic expressions are going to be experienced through the elements as well. And by elements, I mean the four elements of fire, earth, water, air. At a more personal level, these closing energies in Pisces are going to be showing up in your chart very strongly between 25 to 29 degrees of Pisces, as well as 0 to 2 degrees of Aries. And I am going to be teaching a live workshop, 2 live workshops, in fact, going through the energetic dance that will be working with all of us. This will be on Friday, February 7th. If you would like to join me live, there will be replays, and this program is called Your Soul's Next Starting Point: Fated Developments for Prosperous New Beginnings. When you sign up, you will also have access immediately to 5 pre-recorded teachings as I introduce the material and then go through what each planet will be guiding you through and how they will influence each other. It's quite a dynamic dance here at the final degrees of Pisces and the beginning points of Aries. The energy lasts into 2026, so it is a year-long process, but I hope that this information helps you understand what is transitioning for you so that you can have this new beginning that will really come in strongly 2026. Details will be below the podcast if you would like to join me. And you can also find information about my other programs and courses over at mollymccord.online. As always, thank you so much for joining me for this weekly show. I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for another podcast episode. And do check out my YouTube channel where I have a lot of playlists for you to help you learn more about your astrology chart, more specifics in your chart, as well as some things that perhaps you never looked at or considered. I do feel that that's a great library of information over on my YouTube channel. Wishing you a beautiful start to February. And I look forward to connecting with you again very soon. Take good care.